Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Very warm welcome to this Monday, 24th July 2023 morning Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam discussion. Today we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 9, Text 21. Before we discuss on this verse, let's sing Jai Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Ashtotra Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, सामवेद भक्तवृंद की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu Krishne Matirastu Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 9, Text 21. Varaṁ varaya bhadraṁ te vareśaṁ mābhivāñchitam brahmañ chreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ puṁsāṁ mad-darśanāvadhiḥ varaṁ varaya bhadraṁ te vareśaṁ mābhivāñchitam brahmañ chreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ puṁsāṁ mad-darśanāvadhiḥ varaṁ varaya bhadraṁ te vareśaṁ mābhivāñchitam brahmañ chreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ puṁsāṁ mad-darśanāvadhiḥ. Word by word. Varaṁ, benediction. Varaya, just ask for. From. Bhadraṁ, auspicious. Te, onto you. Vareśaṁ, the giver of all benedictions. Mam, from me. Abhivanchitam, wishing. Brahman, O Brahma. Shreyaḥ, the ultimate success. Parishrāmaḥ, for all penances. Puṁsāṁ, for everyone. Mat, my. Darshana, realization. Avadhi, up to the limit of. Translation. I wish you good luck. O Brahma, you may ask from me, the giver of all benediction, all that you may desire. You may know that the ultimate benediction, as a result of all penances, is to see me by realization. Purport. By His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. The ultimate realization of the Supreme Truth is knowing and seeing face to face the personality of Godhead. Realization of the impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma features of the personality of Godhead is not ultimate realization. When one realizes the Supreme Lord, one does not struggle hard to perform such penances. The next stage of life is to discharge devotional service to the Lord just to satisfy Him. In other words, one who has realized and seen the Supreme Lord has attained all perfection because everything is included in that highest perfectional stage. The impersonalists and the pseudo-mystics, however, cannot reach this state. Before we discuss on this verse, let us offer some prayers. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Shreshtam Manamapi Shachiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Gurupurim Mathurim Koshavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Moho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shrirupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Adadandastrinam Dante Idam Yachah Punah Punah Shriman Rupa Padambhojam Dhulisyam Janma Janmani He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 21. Varaṁ varaya bhadraṁ te vareśaṁ mābhivāñchitam brahmañ chreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ puṁsāṁ mad-darśanāvadhiḥ. I wish you good luck. O Brahma, you may ask from me, the giver of all benediction, all that you may desire. You may know that the ultimate benediction, as a result of all penances, is to see me by realization. So in this verse, Krishna is talking to Brahma, and we see from the previous verses how Brahma got originated from the navel of Vishnu. Shantakaram Bhujakashayanam Padmanabham. So from his navel, the Padma, lotus, is emanating, Mahavishnu, and Lord Brahma is sitting on that lotus flower. And Brahma is trying to understand his origin, where he has come from. And in that state, he hears the word tapa, that means penance. So when Brahma does the penance of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is not the penance actually. This is the wonderful state of spiritual existence. In the spiritual existence, the path and the goal is the same. Like the path is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That is a path. And the goal is also chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the path and goal is the same. The difference is when one is on the path, one is not in a totally pure state of existence. But following the path makes one pure, and ultimately one realizes that the path was the goal. So this is the amazing spiritual existence. So in this verse, Brahma was remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his lotus feet, and finally Brahma saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we see here when Mahavishnu is giving his darshan to Brahma, he is informing Brahma that you can ask for any boon from me. Varaṁ varaya bhadraṁ te. So benediction, just ask from auspicious onto you. So this is what Mahavishnu is saying to Brahma, that you can ask any benediction that is auspicious onto you. So this is bhadraṁ is an important word here, because we see that even the demons do lots of austerities and penances, but unfortunately, their austerities and penances are for nefarious activities. It is unfortunately to propitiate the false ego, to make the false ego even more. So whenever a demon is doing some tapasya or penance, and the demon is acting with that state of mind where one wants to become the greatest, and one wants to rule over the whole universe, and one does not want to die. So this is the, if we look at what Hiranyakashipu uh, did lots and lots of penances to propitiate Lord Brahma. He was worshipping Lord Brahma to get the boon of being immortal and being able to rule over the whole universe. If we look at from the perspective of our original existence is eternal. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna, tani aham veta sarvani natvam veta parantapa. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that, O Arjuna, yourself and myself have taken many births. I remember all of them, but you don't, O Arjuna. So this is the situation of the living entities, that they are taking birth after birth, and Krishna is also coming in, but his coming in is sambhavammi atma maya. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam isharopi san prakritim swam abhishtaya sambhavammi atma maya. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that even though he is unborn and he is inexhaustible, ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam isharopi san, and he is the Lord of all the living entities, of all the existence. Prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavammi atmamaya. He himself comes down by the agency of his internal potency, that is yogamaya. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrata. Mudhoyam nabhijanati mamebhya paramavayam. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that he is not revealed to everyone. So Krishna, if he is personally there, only the person with devotion would be able to see Krishna as he is. Otherwise, the people might see Krishna, but they would not recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this was even when Krishna personally came, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyam. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that whenever there is discrepancy in execution of religious principles, dharmasya glanir bhavati, then Krishna personally comes, tadatmanam srijamyam. And why does he come? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chatushkrutam. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. As Krishna mentions, he comes to deliver the saintly people and at the same time to annihilate the miscreants. Paritrana sadhunam vinasha. And then the third reason why Krishna appears is dharma samsthapanarthaya, to establish the religious principles. So Krishna is constantly coming like that. So here, in this particular verse, the Mahavishnu is giving darshan to Brahma and is asking Brahma, varaṁ varaya bhadraṁ te. Ask for any benediction, O Brahma. And that which is auspicious. And that is very important. And that is what we were discussing, that the auspicious benedictions are can be sought for only by the devotees of the Lord. If a person is not in a devotional frame of mind, unfortunately, that is yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke swadhik kalatradhishu bhaumya jati yatirtha buddhi salile na karhichit janeshu abhigneshu saeva gokhara. As it is mentioned in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that if one is in that state of existence where one thinks that I am this body made up of bile, mucus, and air. That this is what I. There is nothing else other than this. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke swadhik kalatradhishu. From the intelligence, one is thinking that this family is mine. This kalatra adishu. So the wife and children are mine. Yasyatma swadhik kalatradhishu bhaumya jadi. Whatever land I am born in is worshipable. Yatirtha buddhi salile na karhichit janeshu abhigneshu saravagogra. So someone is going to the places of pilgrimage to take bath in the holy rivers, but is not associating with the saintly self-realized souls who reside there, who Krishna conscious souls. So if one is in that state of mind where one thinks that I am this body and whatever is related to my body is mine, and whatever land this body is born in is worshipable, and I go to the places of pilgrimage with the intention of taking bath in the holy rivers, but I do not associate with the holy people who are staying there in that land, then sa eva gokhara. So the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is saying that if that is the state of my existence in the human form of life, then I am like a cow or a donkey. And this is the it might seem very strong statement, but unfortunately, in the conditioned state of existence, one is unfortunately in that state where one in this human form of life, there is this evolved intelligence, and through this evolved intelligence, one can understand what is the reason of one's existence. That cannot be done in any other form of life. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, Durlabham manusham janmam tadapi adruham artadam kaumaram acharit prajna dharman bhagavataniya. So Prahlad Maharaj says that this execution of religious principles should start from childhood itself. This Bhagavata Dharma. What is Bhagavata Dharma? It is when one is engaged in loving devotional service of Krishna. And that is what Brahma was doing. Brahma did the devotional service of the Lord. And it might seem as penance in the beginning, but actually it is not penance. It is the most thrilling and most blissful activity that one can ever do, is engaging in devotional service. So there is nothing more blissful and more engaging and more satisfying than engaging in devotional service. One tries in the conditioned state of existence. Sometimes one does not know what one has to do with the time. So the time seems. So one gets into the so-called state of boredom, and when one is trying to do lots of different things to occupy the mind. But mind's real occupation is to be situated in the self, because that is the home of mind. The home of mind is in that state, blissful state, where one does not need anything else. So this is Atma Ramascha Munaya Nigranthapi Urukrame Kurvanti Haitukim Bhaktim Itham Bhuta Guno Hari. Very beautiful verse. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained it in hundreds of different ways. So that verse, Atma Ramascha Munayo Nigranthapi Urukrame, what it is saying is that one who enjoys the bliss within, Atma Rama. So there is this word in Hindi where one calls aram. Aram means when one is in that state of totally free from any anxiety. One is in a totally a state where there is nothing to worry about, and one is very happy. That is aram. So this is atma aramasya. So when the atma rama, or one who is fully situated in the self and enjoying the bliss within oneself, that is atma rama. So such a person, atma rama shamunya nigranthapi urukrame. So who can enjoy the bliss within the self? It is that person who has taken off the knots of conditioned material existence. This is unfortunately, in the conditioned state of existence, it is called hard knot of material existence. So this is Tepisha Tantra Urudam Nibadhya, as it is said by Sri Prahlad Maharaj. So one is bound by the modes of material nature. So there is mode of goodness is also a kind of binding, but goodness is a good binding which helps one to transcend all the modes of material nature. If one is in mode of ignorance, one is lazy and indolent, and then that laziness is not going to help one to realize one's original spiritual nature. So what is going to help one to realize one's original spiritual nature? That is being aware and being in the present, and while being in the present, remembering the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Savai Manah Krishna Padaravindayo. Because if we are not in the present, if the mind is somewhere in the past brooding about things that has already happened, or planning for some things in the future, so if the mind is either in the past or future, then mind cannot remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the mind has got preoccupied with something that is not the present. But if the mind is the present, then the mind can be focused on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead 100%. So when that 100% focus on the lotus feet of the Lord is there, then one is in a transcendental state of existence. That is, so nigranthapi urukrame kurvanti ahetukim bhaktim. That is the kurvanti ahetukim bhaktim. So that is costless devotional service. Ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Savai puṁsāṁ paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje. Ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. As it is mentioned in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that is the highest religious activity. Paro dharma, the supreme religious activity. What is it? Yato bhaktir adhokshaje. That which is the loving devotional service to the Lord who cannot be seen by blunt material eyes. Adha krita akshaja. So Krishna cannot be seen by blunt material eyes. For seeing Krishna, one need to have an eyes that is anointed with love for the Lord. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. When that happens, when the eyes are anointed with love for the Lord, then santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. That then the saint is constantly seeing the Lord in the heart. Not only in the heart, yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. So when that surrender to the Lord is there, one is seeing the Lord at every moment, in every place, in every atom. This is that pure devotional service. Then there is bhutani bhagavati atmani yesha bhagavata uttama. So there is there is this verse where when one says that one talks about the uttama adhikari state. Uttama adhikari. So there are different levels of devotional service. There is a kanishta adhikari, madhyama adhikari, and uttama adhikari. Kanishta adhikari is that type of devotee. Archayam eva hare pujaya shraddhaya ihate nadad bhakteshu cha anyeshu sabhakta prakrita smrita. So the kanishta adhikari, it is said that in that state of the beginning of devotional service, one is rendering loving devotional service to the deity of the Lord, but one is not acting, one is not giving respect to the people. So then that is so. In that state, one is in a kanishta adhikari stage, or the beginning stage of devotional service. Then there is madhyama adhikari stage. So there, in the madhyama, or in the middle category of the devotional service, that is where one is the prema maitri kripa upeksha. So one in terms of the deity, one is loving the deity, prema. Maitri, to the devotees, one is becoming their friend. Kripa, to the people who are innocent, one is giving them the mercy. And upeksha, to the people who are antagonistic to devotional service, one is ignoring them. So this is the four categories. The behavior of the devotee to the four different categories is different in the middle stage of devotional service. In the beginning stage of devotional service, one is worshipping nicely the deity of the Lord, but one is not able to relate to the people in terms of understanding that they are eternal part and parcel of Krishna. Unfortunately, that relationship is not being established. In the second stage, in the Madhyama stage, one is giving love to the deity of the Lord, and then one is becoming friends with the devotees, one is giving mercy to the innocent, and then one is ignoring the antagonistic people. So that is Madhyama. And in the Uttama Adhikari, in the stage where one is pure loving devotional service to the Lord, which is 100% unadulterated, in that state of devotional service, Sarva yunishu ya pashyet bhagavad bhavam atmana bhutani bhagavati atmani esha bhagavad uttama. Sarva bhuteshu ya pashyet bhagavad bhavam atmana. So in the Uttama Adhikari stage, on the topmost 100% unadulterated loving devotional service stage, that devotee is seeing only Krishna consciousness everywhere. The mind is so much focused on the lotus feet of the Lord and in the service of the Lord that one sees anywhere, one only sees that only devotional service is being performed. Nothing else is being done. So what, in that state of mind, it does not matter where the person is, because from that eye of loving devotional service, one is only seeing that everyone is doing devotional service to the Lord. Externally, one might be wearing different types of dresses. What is a dress? The body. Externally, one might even be a demoniac personality. But that Uttamadhikari knows that internally, that person is also an eternal part and parcel of the Lord, as much as myself. So internally, everyone is coming from the Lord, and everyone will go back to the Lord. In the sense that the breathing of Mahavishnu, Yaseka Nishvasita Kala Mathavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanatha Vishnur Mahan Sahiha Yasya Kala Vishesha Govinda Madipurusham Tabam Bhajami. So when Mahavishnu is exhaling, all the universes are coming out and all the living entities are coming out. And when Mahavishnu is inhaling, all the universes are going in and the living entities are going in as well. So whether the living entity realizes or not, they are actually coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. So this is amazing. It is, and this is the vision of the pure devotee of the Lord. And that in that vision, one can always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So every moment becomes a moment of remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Krishna. There is no moment when a person who is 100% engaged in loving devotional service of Krishna does not remember Krishna, because their whole atom, their whole cells are constantly in remembrance of the Lord. Their existence is based on remembrance of the Lord. They cannot exist without remembering the Lord. That is the purity of loving devotional service to the Lord. And Similarly, the Lord is also extremely uh, uh, costlessly merciful to such a devotee. Tesham jnani nityayukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnani atyartamaham sacha mama priya. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that there are 4 kinds of devotees who come to me. Artho jignasur artharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. So one who is in distress, one who wants wealth, one who is inquisitive, and one who is in knowledge. So among the 4 categories, Krishna says one who is in knowledge is very dear to me. Why? Because eka bhaktir vishishyate. Such a person is engaged in one-pointed loving devotional service to me. And therefore, such a person is really very dear to me. Yuna hrishyati na dveshti na shochati na kankshati sama shubha shubha parityagi bhakti manya same priya. So in the Bhakti Yoga chapter, Krishna mentions who are very dear to him. So Krishna says that one who is not extremely elated or extremely dejected, na shochati na kankshati. So samasa. So this is the when one is in that spiritual state of mind, all the happenings that happen in the material world is taken with a pinch of salt, in the sense that it is not taken as the eternal truth, because it is not the eternal truth. It is a temporary happening that is happening at that moment, and that temporary happening has got a temporary effect. And we have seen this many times in our lives, that sometimes we might be going through extremely elated situations, and sometimes we might be going through extremely difficult situations. But both of those situations never last forever. Neither the extremely exhilarating situation nor the extremely distressing situations. They might seem like it is ages that these things are going on because of the nature of these events, but actually it is temporary. We know that for sure. So this is the nature of this material world. And here we see in this wonderful verse that Mahavishnu is saying to Brahma that you can ask an auspicious boon from me. Varaśaṁ mābhivāñchitam. So Krishna here he's calling himself as vareśaṁ. So vareśaṁ is one who is the Lord of the benediction, or one who gives the benediction. So varaṁ deva moksham na mokṣavadhiḥ va nachanya vruneham vareshadapiha idam te vapurnatha gopala balam sadame manasi avirastam kimanye. So that is Satyavrata Muni is saying in Damodarashtakam. Very beautiful. Satyavrata Muni is saying that I don't want varam deva moksham na mokṣavadhiḥ va. I don't even want liberation, O Lord. Nachanya vruneham vareshadapiha. Just let my mind always remember idam te vapurnatha gopala balam. The Gopala Krishna, let me always remember in my mind. Idam te vapurnatha gopala balam sadame manasya virastam kimani. Always let my mind remember Gopala Krishna. I don't want any other boon. And we see this in the story of Dhruva Maharaj as well. Dhruva Maharaj, his stepfather is not giving him as much affection as his other brother, and then Dhruva Maharaj feels very bad about it. A small child, 5 years old child, and then he's asking his mother about how can he get to his father's lap. It's such a simple desire. of a child. It's not a huge desire that just to sit in the lap of his father. And then he is going in the forest, and then Narada Muni is guiding him. So this is the greatness of Narada Muni, that he always is there, available for all the living entities, irrespective of what state they are in. There is, and this is that Uttamadhikari state. Narada Muni is in that Uttamadhikari state where he sees that everyone is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna, and he just wants them to realize that that is their original nature. So he's traveling across everywhere in the whole universe, and he is giving his association and his guidance to all the living entities. So here we see Dhruva Maharaj gets the guidance of Narada Muni. And then Narada Muni states to Dhruva Maharaj about remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's giving that mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Dhruva Maharaj, initially, his prayers, he is remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead to get his desire fulfilled. A very simple desire of sitting in the lap of his father. So this is what he's starting off his devotional service journey with. So he's in the category of distressed, artho. But he becomes more than a jnani. He becomes a pure devotee of the Lord. That's why it is said, akama sarva kama va moksha kama udharadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. It is said in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that if one does not have any desires, or one has unlimited desires, sarva kama va, or one has a desire of liberation, moksha kama udharadi tivrena bhakti yogena, one should always render loving devotional service to purusham param, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purusham is the person, and Param is the Supreme person. So one has to render loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether one has no desires, or whether one has unlimited desires, or whether one has a desire of liberation. It doesn't matter what situation one is in, one just needs to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is what we have seen in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. And then when he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he says, Swamin Kritharthosmi Varam Nayache. Oh Lord, I am so much satisfied now by seeing you that I don't want any more benedictions, no boons. This is the greatness of directly seeing the Lord. Then one does not want anything else other than the Lord. So this is sthana abhilashi tapasis sthitoham yam prapyavan deva munindra guhyam kachan vichinvan api divya ratnam swamin kritarthosmi varam nayache. So this is what Srila Dhruva Maharaj said when he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He said that, oh Lord, unfortunately I was in a state of mind of attaining some position, and that's why I was engaged in this penance. Sthana abhilashi tapasisthidoham yam prapyavan deva munindra guhyam. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even the great sages and the great demigods are not able to attain him. They are not able to see him. The great sages, aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasha name vidu suragana prabhava na maharshaya aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasha. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, he says that even the great sages and the great demigods do not know me, because I am their origin. Aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasha. Of all the demigods and all the great sages. So here, that's why it is said, yam prapyavan deva munindra guhyam. So he cannot be known even by the great demigods and the great sages. Kachan vichinvan api divya ratna. So I was looking for some pieces of some shiny object, but you are actually the most valuable diamond, a transcendental divine jewel. But I was looking for broken pieces of glasses. Kachan vichinvan apadivyratnam swamin kritarthosmi varam na yache. Then Dhruva Maharaj says that, thank you so much, O Lord, for giving me your darshan. Now I don't want any benediction from you. So this is what is being mentioned in this verse as well, actually. Varaṁ varaya bhadraṁ te vareśaṁ mābhivāñchitam brahmañ chreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ puṁsāṁ mad-darśanāvadhiḥ. So if we look at the third line of this verse, brahmañ chreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ. So Mahavishnu is saying to Lord Brahma, "O Brahma, the ultimate success for parishrama, for all the penances, is puṁsāṁ for everyone, my darshana realization avadhi, up to the limit of." So that topmost result of all the penances is to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the topmost result. So once one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one does not want anything else. All the wanting disappears, all the desires disappear, because that is the original constitutional position of all the living entities, to be in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unfortunately, since time immemorial, the living entity has been taking birth after birth. And in that birth after birth, the conditioned state of existence makes the living entity think that doing thousands of other things other than rendering loving devotional service is better. So this is Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nirnam Santi Sahasrasa Apashyatam Atmatattvam Graheshu Grahamedina. This is said by Srila Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. Shukadeva Goswami says that when one does not know one's original constitutional position as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna, one is hearing and looking and saying and remembering things, thousands of different things, which has no direct relationship with Krishna. Everything is indirectly related with Krishna. So that way, one can never be out of Krishna's influence. One is always under the influence of Krishna. The question is whether one is under the influence of Krishna via his external energy or via his internal energy. If one is under the influence of Krishna via his external energy, mama maya duratyaya, one is unfortunately in a state of, even though one might be the greatest person in the whole world, but if one's mind is not focused on the lotus feet of the Lord, that greatness has unfortunately got no value. Why it has no value? Because that internal, original, natural position is not there. If one is not in one's own natural, original position, one can be whatever externally, but internally one will never find the satisfaction. The internal satisfaction comes when one has those qualities: amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam, acharyopasanam, shaucham, sthairyam, atmavinigraha. So when those qualities are there, there is internal satisfaction. When one is humble, amanitvam, humility, one knows that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the controller. I am a servitor. I am serving the Supreme Lord, and in the state of service to the Supreme Lord, I am at the most blissful state of existence. My state of existence is, and that can be practically when one is engaging in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, with 100% focus. If one is serving the Lord that way, one can know that one is one's natural situation is serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But artificially, one is trying to project oneself as the Lord of everything that one serves. it is unfortunately going to create a lot of difficulties internally. There will be no internal satisfaction. It is such an unfortunate state to be in. When if one does not have internal satisfaction of being in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is a very unfortunate situation. It's because originally that is what our natural state of existence is. Jivere swarupaya krishnera nityadas. Krishnasya tatastha shakti bheda bheda prakash. Suryansha yata agni jwala chaya krishnera teen prakar shakti haya. So this is mentioned in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that the original constitutional position of all the living entities is that they are eternally in service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishnera nityadas. Krishnasya tatastha shakti. And the living entities are marginal energy of the Lord. Bheda bheda prakash. Simultaneously one and different to the Lord. And the example given is like Suryamsha Agni Jwala Chaya. So when the light from the sun is coming, there is the fire of the sun that is causing that heat to travel through through thousands of light years, millions of light years, and it reaches the different planets. Like the earthly planet is getting that heat from the sun, heat and light from the sun. So there is the Agni, the fire that is coming from the sun, Jwala Chaya. So there is the heat and light, and then there is also the Chaya, that is the shadow. So the shadow is also coming from the sun. Because we know how the shadow is formed. Right? The shadow, when the light is falling on us, the shadow is behind us. So, or depending on where the light is coming from, the shadow will be in that direction. So, this shadow is that material energy, the external material energy. It is like so, and the shadow is based on reality. So, for example, if we say that the body is a shadow, the shadow body is based on who? On the presence of the original living entity within the body. The original living entity is Tatastha Shakti, the marginal energy of the Lord. What does marginal energy means? That the living entity can decide whether I want to associate with the internal energy of Krishna or whether I want to associate with the external energy of Krishna. At every moment, the living entity can take that decision. Because the living entity is on the shore. Tata means the shore, the seashore. So if the living entity, if we think that the land is the material world and the waves coming from the ocean is the spiritual world, if we just take that as a metaphor, then most of the time we are in that material world. But sometimes the waves of spiritual bliss comes and touches us, and then it goes off again. But then this is also a great way and an impetus for the living entity who is in the marginal state to always remember that there is that real bliss, that real happiness, which is totally independent of everything else. And that is the real state of existence. When one is Ramante Yogina Anante, Satyanande Chidatmani, Iti Rama Padena Shav Param Brahma Vidiyate. So it is mentioned in the scriptures that the real, the pure devotee of the Lord is in the state of eternal, unending bliss. Anante. There is no end to it. Satyanande. And what kind of happiness it is? It is the real bliss. And where is it coming from? Chidatmani. It is actually coming from within. Iti Rama Padena Shav Param Brahma Vidiyate. And therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Rama. So Rama means one who gives bliss. Ramante. Ramante is blissfulness. So one who provides the bliss. And Krishna is one who is attracting everyone to him automatically. So one may know or one may not know, but one is always attracted to Krishna. But because there is huge covering of ignorance, Unfortunately, one does not know that one is attracted to Krishna. Therefore, this path of spiritual realization is called self-realization. Self-realization, God realization, realization. So the realization word is important here, and that's what Srila Prabhupada has mentioned as darshana. Srila Prabhupada has given the translation for darshana as realization. So darshana is possible. Seeing the Lord is possible when that layers and layers of conditioned existence is cleansed, which is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Shikshashtakam, the first lines of Shikshashtakam, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing the mirror of the mind. When the mirror of mind is cleansed, then there is Bhava Mahad Avagni Nirvapanam. There is this blazing fire of material existence. It is like a forest fire. One does not know how this forest fire starts, but once it starts, it's so difficult to control it and stop it. So unfortunately, in the conditioned state of existence, that is the state of existence of all the living entities. Bhava Mahad Avagni Nirvapana. Bhava Mahad Avagni, that is like a forest fire, blazing forest fire. But it is Nirvapanam. It gets rid of this blazing forest fire of material existence. Shreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ Chandrika Vitaranam. It's like the moon, beautiful moon, full moon night, which is sending in that cooling rays of the moonlight. Shreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam. It is the actual life and soul of all the transcendental knowledge. Anandambudhi Vardhanam. At every moment, that bliss is constantly increasing. So in the material world, unfortunately, any kind of so-called happiness that one gets, it starts diminishing after time. Then if one keeps indulging in that happiness, the so-called happiness coming out of that indulgence slowly starts becoming less. So this Nateshu Ramate Buddha. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that a really intelligent person does not become attached to all gratificatory activities. If something is coming, okay, it is coming. He said that's fine. If something is not conducive to sense gratification, if that is coming, the person acknowledges that also and knows that that is going to go. So that is the state of the mind of the who is surrendered onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are not hankering for any kind of thing that is going to satisfy their senses, and neither are they lamenting when that so-called satisfaction of the senses starts going away. Why? Because the mind is always focused on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that in that focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is Anandambudhi Vardhanam. Constantly that bliss is increasing at every moment. Pratipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam. At every moment, there is this experience of Amrita, that is immortality. So that immortality is, Purna Amrita is, when one knows that this changing thing, I am not. Constantly, at every moment, the cell is changing. We notice it after many years. Like if we see one person today and if we see them after 10 years, we'll say, oh, you've changed so much. But has that change actually taken place in 10 years, or has the change been taking place at every moment? At every moment. But we are not seeing the momentary changes. We only notice the change after a long duration of time. But the change is happening at every moment. And this is the nature of this material world, that every moment there is change. But that change is perceived because there is changeless within us. So An example given is in physics itself. In the physics, in the law of motion, if we have two trains going in the same direction at the same speed, and one person in this train is looking at another person in this train, they will think as if nothing is moving, because they both are moving constantly in the same direction, at the same speed. So why do we notice change? Because there is something changeless within us, which we are originally. We are the changeless, eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And this body is, every moment it is changing. Every moment, unfortunately, it is going towards deterioration. Because at the end there is death, which is annihilation of the body. But our original existence is eternal, and eternally we are part and parcel of Krishna. And in that state of existence, we can say this wonderful prayer: varaṁ varaya bhadraṁ te vareśaṁ mābhivāñchitam brahmañ chreyaḥ-pariśrāmaḥ puṁsāṁ mad-darśanāvadhiḥ. So this is what is said by Mahavishnu to Brahma. Mahavishnu is saying, I wish you good luck. So after doing penances for millions of years, Brahma sees Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu says, I wish you good luck. O Brahma, you may ask from me, the giver of all benediction, all that you may desire. You may know that the ultimate benediction, as the result of all penances, is to see me by realization. So that is the ultimate benediction, as a result of all penances, to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so if we can just remember that, and if we can remember how fortunate we are that we have this wonderful forms of Krishna and his name and his wonderful devotees, then we will know that we are in the spiritual world always, if our mind is focused 100% on Krishna. With that, I would like to thank you all very much for listening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadya Deshatarane. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Krishne Matirastu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.